Emilia Clarke, Daenerys, Sarah Connor on BJ Shea's Geek Nation. Emilia, how's it going?
Hi, lovely to meet you.
This is awesome because from one badass character in Daenerys Targaryen to, probably the pinnacle of badass characters, Sarah Connor, and we get to see it this Wednesday in theaters with Terminator Genisys. What is it like to fill the role that Linda Hamilton started with Sarah Connor?
Oh, it feels pretty surreal. It feels pretty amazing. It was one of those the couple of movies that I grew up watching, and Linda's performance I was really continually inspired by. So it was just such a dream come true to be able to jump at the opportunity to play her. It was only after the fact that I suddenly realized what an enormous kind of undertaking that was.
Well, Lena, your co-star in Game of Thrones, of course, she plays Cersei, also played Sarah Connor before. Did she give you any tips or suggestions when you got the role?
Oh, well, we definitely had a good old giggle about it, that's for sure. And then I'm pretty sure that David and Dan, the showrunners on Game of Thrones, think it'd be a very funny idea if we had a fight to see which Sarah Connor would end up on top.
That would be great. What's it like transitioning from a character like Daenerys, who is very powerful and super centric in the Game of Thrones storyline, but she's not quite the action hero, to Sarah Connor, who, from what we see, it looks like you are going to be in the middle of all the action. How is that transition like for you?
Yeah, well, it was pretty amazing because Daenerys, I'm definitely playing a badass, strong woman there, but Sarah Connor really gets stuck in, and I had to learn a lot of new skills. I had to learn how to handle a weapon as amazingly as she does. Thanks to a good decade of being brought up by a Terminator. And yeah, getting involved in some of those fights was just brilliant. It was adrenaline pumping, wanting to be better than the boys, excitement.
And this isn't really like a remake or a reboot, so to speak, but the history does change in this. Like you said, you have a Terminator that's been there before. How does that factor in with the whole Terminator mythos?
Well, basically, it's that we really are paying homage to the first two that James Cameron created. So there are some familiar storylines, and there are some things that we go back on, but then we have this gorgeous couple of twists, one of which being that the Terminator was sent back to save my life when I was 9, whilst my parents died, and raise me as the born killer that I was. So we kind of jump forward to, in Terminator 2, you get to watch Linda Hamilton kind of grow into the strong woman that she is in Terminator 2. But with ours, Sarah's already there. She doesn't need rescuing, she doesn't need saving, and she's ready to actually save Kyle Reese this time around.
That's so badass.
The epitome of badass.
Yeah.
Well, in the trailer, I noticed you say an iconic line, "Come with me if you want to live." How did it feel like when you read that, or when you had to say it? Did it like tingle in your mouth a little bit? How was that, saying such an iconic line?
Yeah, it was definitely one of those amazing moments on set where you're like, so much pressure. And I kind of goofed around with it a couple of times. And everyone was like, yeah, that's really funny, but can you just do it really badass and serious now? I was like, oh, okay. Couldn't help myself.
So here's the question that all the geeks out there want to know. Since you've been experienced with both dragons and Terminators, if you're going to roll down the street with one, which would you prefer?
Oh, my goodness. I mean, I get asked that question, and I'm like, it's like asking to choose between my kids.
Which
I love them both.
A little bit, kind of, in this case.
Exactly. So I think we should create a dragon Terminator that breathes fire.
Yes.
I think that's the answer.
I'm completely behind that idea. I do. So you are in an iconic franchise, and you are now in with the Terminators, and now Game of Thrones is going to be iconic. I feel like everyone's going to be talking about this for the next 40, 50 years, looking back on it. But is there any other iconic franchise you'd love to be a part of, or do an iconic role?
Oh my goodness, I don't know. I mean, there's so many, but I'm quite literally spoilt with the two that I have under my belt. So I think I'll sit back and watch the other ones that I love so much. Like I'm so looking forward to Star Wars for number one. That would be one of the big ones. Oh yeah. But right now I'm very content.
Now, before we let you go, I do have kind of a stupid question for you, so I hope you're okay with this.
Okay.
In dealing with Game of Thrones and with the dragons are so badass. I love them so much, and I love the fact that you get to interact with them. And obviously, they're CGI. But my big question is, what the heck are you looking at when you've got to pretend there's a dragon there? Do they just like stick a cow or a goat or something there that you got to talk to, or like what goes on with that?
I think I'd prefer a cow or a goat. That'd be hilarious. No, they started off as little green tennis balls, and then they got into little green kind of hand puppets, and now they are enormous green, like styrofoam, big old snake-looking thing
Oh, wow.
with a really long pole and a little man at the end kind of scooting it around like,
So you got to try to maintain
like a puppet show.
Yeah, you got to maintain eye contact with something that has basically like a line or something to show. Oh, this is where you're supposed to look.
Yes, and it's big and it's green and it's styrofoam.
Amelia, thank you so much again. Amelia Clarke on Terminator Genesis this Wednesday,
July 1st.
July 1st. I'm super stoked to check this out.
Me too.
I want to see where you take Sarah Connor. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me, guys. Thank you.